Go. Okay. So we don't spend the night.
Pass it around.
Yes, we
Yeah,
got two
you'll
nights
be
in
here
this,
for a
so
while. No.
Yeah, I know, but
two nights.
Okay.
Put a jacket on in case the temperature drops.
You know it's going to. I keep me some. It was like 61 last night.
Anytime you're ready, man.
I'm ready. Good evening. The Finance Committee meeting for the Gary Common Council for Tuesday, September 24th is now called to order. I'm Mary Brown, Chairman of the Finance Committee. These are the ordinances that are on the agenda this evening. CPO 2019-51, which is an ordinance approving salary and operating budgets for the City of Gary's Community Development Block Grant Program, Program Year 2019 Emergency Solutions Grant Program, Program Year 2019 Home Program. Sponsored by Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson and Angela Hayes, City Controller, Community Development Division, Department of Commerce. CPO 2019-53, an ordinance appropriating 2019 budgets for the operating expenses and salaries of grants and special revenue funds for rental inspection program of the City of Gary for the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2019 and ending December 30th, 2019. Sponsored by Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson and Angela Hayes, City Controller. CPO 2019-55, an ordinance revising 2019 appropriations for the general salary budget for the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2019, ending December 31, 2019. CPO 2019-56, an ordinance approving the amended and restated local agreement between the City of Gary and Majestic Star Casino, LLC, and the Majestic Star Casino 2, LLC, sponsored by Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson, Angela Hayes, City Controller. And CPO 2019-61, an ordinance revising 2019 appropriations for the general salary and operating budgets for the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2019, ending December 31, 2019. Sponsored by Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson, and Angela Hayes, City Controller. Present this evening is our Councilwoman of the 5th District, Linda Barnes Caldwell, our Councilwoman of the 6th District, Levita Sparks Way, our Councilwoman of the 1st District, Rebecca Wyatt, our Councilman at Large, Mike Brown, our Councilman of the 2nd District, Mr. Michael Protho, our financial advisor, Mr. Virgil Moore, and our legal advisor, Mr. And our legal advisor, Mr. Renzo Williams, and our mayor is here as well, Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson. So we will begin with CPO 2019-51. Now this ordinance was deferred from the last council meeting and brought back to this meeting. So we are ready for whomever is going to take this one.
I think we passed an amended version of this.
We did pass an amended version, but somebody needs to talk to us about this portion. Carla, is it you? Or Angela, whomever.
Good evening,
Good evening.
Mayor, members of the council. So the code enforcement portion of this bill was taken out of the CDBG budget. And the reason that it was taken out was that it was part of an overall reorganization relative to support staff and efforts in the Commerce Department. What we'd like to do is allow the code enforcement officers, and we're looking at adding a code enforcement officer so that they would, so that it would be possible to have one in every district. I know that's something that we hadn't done before. because of the fact that you can only use CDBG money in certain areas in terms of the census level and the poverty level. So you've never been able to use it in the first. But we made a code enforcement / building inspector, which would allow us to pay for it out of the budget. However, what I need to determine, and I'm unclear on, is if we can do this as a standalone, because at this juncture, we are not prepared to do the commerce clerk changes because we want to give them to you globally. We know that there are going to be clerk changes in commerce, in the health department, because there's going to be consolidation there, in the police department, and our commitment to the union and to the council was that we would, why don't I share, Trey?
No, that's good. That's so fine.
My commitment to the council and to the union was to have it all as one proposal. And so I think that that is a better picture. It gives you a clear understanding of any displacement, if there is some. We've had a lot of retirements, particularly in the police department. So I think that we would be better served as it relates to the clerks of giving you the overall framework of the reorganization plan. And it may not make the budget, but it will make at least the proposal, the overall proposal.
Okay. So, we're ready. Anybody got any questions?
So are we asking to defer this one?
Well, I'd still like to pull, and what I need to find out from Arlene and Angie is if we can pull the code enforcement out, because that's clear, and that's not in the reorg. The only difference is that we would add that 6 code officer.
Okay, I thought we passed the rest without
Did
the
they pass
code.
that part?
We did.
We
And
passed
just
it.
pulled out the part that you have there.
Okay,
Yeah,
then
we
we
passed
would,
the rest.
then we would. We're
Yes.
asking that this be deferred then.
Right,
That is
so we're
correct.
asking that this be
Yes,
deferred
we're
again.
asking that this be deferred again, and we should have it in time for this to be at the next committee meeting. But I
Okay.
just didn't want to bring you this piece without calling.
Okay, that's fine.
So then none of the current code enforcement officers will be affected if we do not do anything?
Right, no.
Because this
No,
will be
because
in
you
a
were
different
always
timeframe.
adding- We were
Right.
only adding a code enforcement officer.
Okay.
So we weren't taking any of them away. But none of the commerce people will be, none of the clerks will be impacted.
No, what I'm saying is, because I know the CDBG budget is on a different fiscal.
Right, so that is passed.
We did
We
that.
passed that at the last council.
Right.
Okay,
Yes.
so were these code enforcement officers, when does the fiscal year for CDBG, for the federal government starts what?
It starts
10/1?
October 1st.
Okay, so it starts 10/1. We don't have any code enforcement officers written into the 10/1. We're not going to, 10/1 is next week.
I believe that's what it is.
So the code officers are in here?
I believe so. I mean, I can text.
They were not passed.
The
They-
only thing we did not
Okay.
pass was what you passed.
Here, I'll take a look. Just so that we're sure. Yeah, these are. So no, they are in here.
Yeah,
The
they are.
inspectors. Yeah, they're in here. So
Right.
what we would need to do is to keep the code officers in and pull the, I believe it's the position for the coordinator and operations manager. But I will confirm that so that we will be in a position to provide. And the good news is for the coordinator and the operations manager, we're talking about 5,000 and 10,000. So
Right.
it's pretty negligible. But we absolutely need to have the code officers in.
Okay, so then we'll get an amended
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
and
we
make
do.
sure that it has 2019, 2020, because we got the wrong dates on here.
What was in the other one?
Well, no, so we always provide the 18 and 19 so that you'll be able,
We don't have to, it should be 2019, 2020.
At the top here?
No, in the,
Budget.
Oh,
In the-
okay, in that part of
yeah,
the budget,
uh-huh.
you're right, because of the fiscal year, you're
Right.
absolutely right. Okay, we'll make sure that that's set.
Are there any more questions?
Please also be.
Did you have more questions?
yeah, the, no, go ahead.
The code enforcement officers will be, we'll vote on that Tuesday, but there'll be another portion we still gonna take out of this, am I right? Because the whole 51 is still not going, am I right?
Right, 51 is still not going.
Not all of it,
All of it's not going.
only a portion. The code enforcement piece is the only piece going.
Yeah. I'm looking in front of her.
Just the code piece is going forward, the other part doesn't. Right, Madam Chair? All right. Because we still need a sixth officer.
Right.
Still short one
Sixth
off.
person, right?
Hmm?
I don't know, now that I
You
don't know.
gotta come up with it. It has to come up.
I don't know where the sixth person's coming from.
Is that all these coming?
Madam Chair, I
Yes.
have one more question. When they get through.
What's that?
Yes, go ahead.
I need to ask them. And they still.
Angela.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, are the code enforcement officers, or is the code enforcement department going to be under commerce?
Yes, we will.
Okay, and the coordinator that is in this position, are we eliminating it for 2020?
Yes, yes, we are. That's the
Okay,
proposal.
now who is in that spot right now? What worker is in that spot right now?
Miss Mildred.
Is she a union worker?
No.
Okay, so this is not a union position. How many years of service does she have? 16? Has she been secured a position somewhere else in the administration?
Yes.
Will she have to rehire?
No.
Okay.
So I think you're getting into the area that we're actually looking to defer for those
Yes.
reasons that you've
Right.
outlined.
Right. But so are you gonna take the coordinator off of here?
Yes.
And you're gonna
Yes.
take
That's what I
operations
just-
manager
yes.
off of
That's
here?
what I just said.
Okay, thank you for the clarity.
Yes, right.
I might have missed that
Yeah.
one, forgive me. Okay. All right,
Are you straight?
I'm done. Mhm.
Okay. Does anybody else want to ask questions about that one? Okay. All right. All right, then we can move on to 2019-53.
Yeah, I think someone in the audience had a question.
Oh,
I
I'm
have a
sorry.
question because I want clarity. One of the things that the union has issue with after we talked with the council person is that we want, and I believe the mayor said she would do that, is we want to see the whole plan because that way we have some clarity on what is ours and isn't. But I want to make sure that I heard what you said this evening.
That's
So-
what I said. Yes,
I
I
know.
did.
Okay, thank you, but I want to ask about did I hear code enforcement / building inspector, is that going to be one position?
Yes, it is.
Mayor, if I
Oh,
may,
please.
code enforcement inspector / zoning inspector. This would be a position that would be paid for out of the general fund to cover District 1, as well as to be able to do zoning inspections. That was the position we talked about, the zoning inspector. You remember we talked
We
about?
talked
that?
about a zoning
Yes.
inspector, that's why I'm trying to make sure, are we talking about combining?
That's why
Because then if they are being combined, then again, there's a failure to notify. Because the contract says, when you merge, when you abolish, when you create new, we're supposed to get notification and an opportunity to discuss. We discussed just the zoning inspector, am I correct? So now, are we
If I can
combining?
clarify, because what we were proposing a zoning inspector, and because of the feedback we received from council members about hiring a sixth code inspector.
right.
Absolutely.
We changed that from a zoning inspector to a code inspector. We will, when we get down the road of combining, we will first sit down and talk to you. We understand the rules, but this would be first and foremost a code inspector for District 1 paid out of the general fund.
Okay, so it's only a code inspector, zoning
Yes.
is not happening.
Yes,
Just making sure I'm clear.
Not right now,
not right now.
but
Before you do.
before you do, we would sit down with
Moving
you
forward, I
guys.
want them to do that.
It'll be all a part of that conversation that I referenced earlier.
Okay. Okay. Are you
Yes, Madam Chair.
straight, or you
Yeah.
got another
So-
question?
So, yes, so Madam Chair, so my question is, moving forward, this job position is gonna change. Is this person gonna be doing 3 jobs, 2 jobs? Or are they just gonna do code, which is that is what council's request?
Right
for
now,
code.
they're doing one job. But what we understand is that in the first district, the code requirements are not as great as they are in the 5th or 6th or 4th or the other districts. And that's why we are considering making it a code and zoning. But prior to that happening, we would go to the union and come to the council.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
We're good. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you,
And,
Sheriff.
and I just want to get some clarity, because when we were here a couple weeks ago, we sat and we discussed various positions that had been combined, that had been the restructuring. We've got the one of the new organizational charts that had been submitted to us.
Yes.
And I spoke with myself, Mike Brown, and our council president Councilman Brown, had conversations with the union. And it was disturbing that management had not had the conversation with union prior to submitting the reorg. And having been a former ABSME member, unions are extremely important to us, as well as the service that our employees here at the City of Geary have given. And I don't, as we get into this, we don't want to see people losing their positions without due process, without having gone before the union and having established with the union. And again, it was because it was brought to us before, and we did not know that the conversation had not been had with the union.
So let me just clarify that,
Yes.
because I clarified it with Ms. Wright as well. The conversation regarding the commerce reorg had happened. What had not been done with the union, and the reason I said earlier today that we were not going to bring this before the council, was the entire big picture involving the health department, involving the police department, involving all of the AFSCME members. But they were very clear on the reorg in the commerce department. Is
And
that correct?
was that done in writing?
No, that is not correct. What we got was 3 job descriptions. That's what I was trying to tell you that day. If we got, see, we're getting it in bits and pieces. That's part of the
Right, and
problem. We got
that's-
3 job descriptions, and that was for, what was that, zoning inspector
and the commerce clerk.
and the
Those are
commerce
the
clerk.
changes in commerce. Those are the changes in commerce.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's what I just said to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
So was that submitted in writing to the
We
union?
saw those 3 job descriptions, but we didn't see was that chart, what was being paid, and as a matter of fact, I believe that we have written down, I have to go back and look at different salary now than I'm seeing in the budget, because we were thinking that the clerks would be getting 31,000, and now I'm seeing 28.
Okay, and we'll get to that a
That-
little later.
Because
But
that's general fund contribution and the rental registration, there's another amount all you have is the general fund contribution.
Okay, so
But they would be
basically
getting.
what has happened is a miscommunication, because you got a link that we didn't get, and we got something that you didn't get, so consequently, we were thinking that a plan had been given, but if
But
the
it's not a
mayor,
plan.
if what she's saying this evening, that's fine. If we
Okay.
want to get the whole plan before any action is taken, that's our concern.
But I just wanted to clarify to the council member that there had been multiple conversations about the Commerce Department, just not the overall plan.
And the conversation had happened, but did it occur in writing?
No, we were waiting for that. We were promised that that was forthcoming.
Well, you have the job descriptions in writing, did you?
Job descriptions, that's not the whole plan. I thought that there was a plan with an org chart, who was gonna do what, and that kind of stuff.
And I don't want to belabor, I really don't want to belabor the point right now, but what I do want to get people to understand between labor and management, and I know some people have worked with labor and management and the negotiations that occur as a result of, but there must be between management and labor written notification, and I think it's like a period of 2 weeks or something like that, depending upon how it's written into the contract, that any changes affecting union members must be done in writing, formally, not informally, not a sad conversation. Hey, I talked to you last week. That's not proof. So we just want to make sure that that happens, and that's it.
Madam Mayor.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right. Okay. Can we move on to 2019-53? That information will be gotten to us, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, 2019-53.
We're voting on the code, am I right?
Just code.
Just the code.
Just the code.
We're
Just the
voting
code.
Tuesday on just the code.
Just the
So
code.
code enforcement
Right,
officers
that's
are taking
it,
care of
right.
it.
To bring in a new code enforcement?
Not yet.
Not
Not yet. We're just making sure the ones that we have are being paid.
And
No,
that
the-
one
Right, is
person,
that, is
No,
it?
the.
Put this one in the new?
That one
Yeah,
person.
it would be brought.
So you
in.
said,
Yeah.
Yeah, that
okay,
extra person would be brought in.
would be brought in, right, that
Okay.
one person.
Tuesday, that's what we're voting on.
Yes, ma'am.
Code and a new person.
Yes.
Okay, because it's 5 people, it's 5 inspectors on this one.
Okay.
Are they going to be paid out of this?
They're not being paid out of CDBG.
Okay, this is city-
The
This
sixth
is-
person is not paid out of CDBG.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Okay, for last time, so we don't need to amend it any further, just vote on it the way it is? With all, is there some degree of amendment on 51 at all?
There is amendment that we will in turn get to
Get
you.
to us.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I need to know, okay.
Yeah.
All right, okay, thank you,
Okay.
thank you, all right.
All right. Is that it? Anybody else?
We'll be here for a while.
Okay, CPO 2019-53. This is the rental inspection program. Who's taking that?
This is also part of the reorganization that I discussed 2 weeks ago.
And so we are looking to defer this.
This is, okay, because there's an amendment for this one as well. Okay. All right.
51.
Are we deferring that one?
Yes. 2019-55.
And, okay. As it relates to,
We started 50, 53, 55, we're going up,
53, oh, I'm sorry.
55,
we're 55. Right, deferring.
Yes.
55, right there, here you go. Yeah. You're welcome. 55.
This is one of the ones that we moved back.
Okay.
Okay.
So the difference in this is that there is a court administrator that will be changed to an operations manager. And I feel comfortable moving forward because it's just a partial salary that will ultimately be a part of the larger plan, but there is nothing that would come out of this. And so we would like you to move forward with this.
Okay. You all got that?
I got a question.
Okay, what's the question?
The city attorney and the assistant city attorney,
Yes.
are they making plans to move into the city?
Well, because there will be a new city attorney, because there will likely be, are you talking about, the assistant city attorney lives in the city?
Who's that?
I think you're talking about, that's Stephen.
Stephen.
I think you're talking about the corporation council.
Okay. Not on here? Yeah.
Yeah, at the bottom. So there will be a new corporation council in December.
In December?
I mean, well,
January.
January 1st.
New administrator.
He was making plans, and with the change with the election, those plans were placed on hold.
Okay.
Any more questions?
Hey, Madam Chair, but this
Yeah.
ordinance still affects the new corporate council coming in 2020. So the ordinance still the same regards, that
Right.
requires residency for the city of Gary
Yes.
for this position.
Which
As long as we
still
clear
requires
about that.
residency, yes.
There's actually statutory, there's state statute that lays out residency for both the corporation council and city attorney.
That's it.
What the council has done is, there's a handbook, a personnel handbook,
Right.
that requires residency.
Okay.
Well, that's part of the city ordinance, the residence requirement.
It is not. It is not. Find it.
Okay.
Yes, okay. Or not.
What does state law say?
State law actually does not require residency.
Does not require.
in the city.
What does it require?
I have to pull it up, and I can pull it up and send it to you.
Okay.
I don't-
So it's the handbook that requires,
But the handbook
Right.
requires all employees to work in the city.
Work in the city.
Isn't that city ordinance?
It's not a city.
Well, so when we were enforcing,
The residence.
residency, was that not
It was
city
pursuant to an
code?
agreement. It was pursuant to an agreement as of the budget last year.
Okay, no. But we were trying
thought
to
we
get you to
amended the
enforce the city
ordinance.
code.
And you did, I don't believe you did. I'll look.
What?
I'm sure that we did. I don't think that we were confused. I don't think we've been confused about that. Because one of the things that we discussed was that code had not been enforced over the years, and the only ones that
Right.
were exempt
It
from
had not
that
been
were
enforced.
public
Right.
safety.
Right.
Not
It
a
had not been
handbook,
enforced,
but a
right.
law.
We had passed it years ago.
Right.
But it had not been enforced.
Right.
Right.
And we
So
amended that ordinance.
That is
Right.
correct.
okay.
Is there something you wanted to add, for,
I would.
Attorney
I
Williams?
think the confusion is, that ordinance was passed under former Mayor Hatcher on being the mayor. It's my understanding from speaking to corporation councils and the council attorney at that point, that the mayor never signed the ordinance. So in fact, the ordinance did not ever take effect. It was a pocket veto. It was passed by the council. The mayor never signed the ordinance. The council never took actions to override the mayor's veto. The perception was that the mayor signed it and then it was an ordinance. But in actuality, if you look at the ordinance, it was never signed. And that's my understanding from talking to the attorneys who were there at the time. That being the case, the mayor is correct. There is no ordinance. The council passed an ordinance, but if the mayor did not sign it and the council didn't override that veto within the statutory period, the ordinance failed for lack of signature by the executive.
That should be in some official minutes somewhere.
yeah.
Well, it wouldn't be in minutes, you just look at the actual ordinance.
Yeah, that's what we
Look to
Is
see
that
if
what
the
you've done?
mayor signed the ordinance.
Yeah.
Can somebody pull that up for us? And I know, it should be codified, shouldn't it? Because we codified up to 2009. It should be codified if it went through Hatch's administration, if indeed it was.
It should be, but I'd have to look at it to give you a more definite response.
Okay, because we don't want to be wrong about this. We do want to be right, because that would be something that we would want to then get our mayor to sign. And the new.
She may sign.
She
may not.
Oh, wait. I think we can do a 2/3.
Okay.
My.
Thank you, Attorney. All right. That it on that one. 2019-56. The restated local agreement, the City of Gary and Majestic Star Casino.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Highlights only.
Who's taking this?
I am taking it.
Okay.
And what I'd like to do is walk, even though I have walked many of you through the changes, I wanted to do that in detail, if you don't mind.
Nope.
Okay, so the LDA, it indicates it's amended and restated, and it is an agreement that dates back to 1996 because of the prior agreements. And the most recent agreement that this is amending is dated February 21st, 2018. And that's under paragraph G of the recital. And then in 8, there is an additional paragraph that was added, which indicates our desire to amend and restate the local agreement in its entirety. And the new therefore is also an addition to the original agreement. That completes the recitals. There are no changes under definitions until you go to the lakefront fund, which indicates a restricted use, non-reverting fund established by the company to be used for the purposes set forth in section 5.31. And I wanted to give a little history because the Lakefront Fund has been in existence for a time prior to us being in office, but it was not clearly defined. And so this clearly defines it. It is a fund that the company has control over, and quite frankly, it's factored into their financing, but it has been historically used to improve the property. As an example, the Lakefront Fund was used for a portion, or at least a portion of it was used when we were dealing with the road, the first road that we built into Lovington Harbor. Some of it has also been used to improve the ground, but it is in the company's sole discretion. Historically, there have been discussions, but it is the company's sole discretion.
This is not the same as the Lakefront TIF, is it?
It is not. it is not.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I know that that's exactly one of the definitions that we talked about in one of the meetings that I had in the Gary room, that it was, and you said that it could be changed from company, it should be changed from company to the agreement herein, because if the company controls it, then we're not going to have the flexibility that we need for community projects.
That's not that fund. That's a different fund.
It's a different fund.
That's a different fund.
Okay, which fund is that?
That's the fund that we're establishing by separate agreement.
Okay.
Remember, there's money that we're suggesting should go into a separate fund for that purpose.
Okay.
Yeah, and then that will govern the $100,000.
And then the other thing, I thought we had in definition some language to define the
Yes.
commercially reasonable.
So I was gonna talk about that later in the agreement, to indicate that those would be added or amended into the definitions.
But I don't see that we've got it here.
No, because we just got them prior. This went out prior to the ordinance, so we would have to add that to the ordinance. In fact, is James here? Do you have that document from James?
I might have it on my phone.
Well, I have it on my phone, so I thought you might have had it printed out.
No, I didn't.
Because I want to read that in the context.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got it. But you see that what I just said. Okay, that's it.
You got it.
All right. So, I'll outline, but the definitions would be amended. We can come back to that though. Sports wagering, which is under S in the definitions, and it simply references the sports wagering that was added to the statute during the last session of the General Assembly, and references that, which we know to be all the praise, all deserved. Under Article 2, Section B, was changed to be consistent with the city ordinance, because while the state law does not require ratification by the council, the city ordinance does. The next change occurs under Article 3, Section 3.04. And it adds language that indicates that the company shall use its reasonable best efforts to recruit, train, and upgrade minorities in all employment classifications and offer each employee at the Gary Riverboat, and that needs to actually simply be grammatically changed because it's redundant. So it would be offer each employee employed at the Gary Riverboat and shall be offered should go away. A similar position at the inland location, and to consider hiring and training individuals who are laid off from the riverboat operating in East Chicago before considering other applicants for similar job openings. That is, again, the Indiana law. So it simply restates the Indiana law. And 3, give preferential hiring. Now, you should note that 3 is not changed. It's already in the agreement to qualified applicants who are residents of the city. The city, I just want to clarify for the purposes of this discussion, is the city of Gary, since you have 2 cities referenced in that paragraph. Now, reasonable best efforts is being proposed as an amendment under, not an amendment, I'm sorry, a definition one of the definitions that we're looking to include in the definitions in the discussion. And it would be acting in good faith. It would say commercially reasonable, no, it would say reasonable best efforts, acting in good faith, actions reasonably calculated to achieve the stated objective. That is the proposed definition.
That's
of
new.
reasonable best efforts. And this is the reasonable best efforts that we're talking about in 3.04. And it really comes from the discussions with the community group, as well as the discussions with many of you who had a concern about what does that mean. So we look to define it, and we believe that if there ever is a dispute, and I will say that right now, I believe 60% of the employees at Majestic are Deere employees. Is that correct? It's a pretty,
It depends on how you look at it.
Okay.
Kind of the existing employees is probably upwards of 40.
okay, upwards of 40. But, you know, they have met this consistent with the spirits. But, you know, I think you also need those reasonable, you need to define those terms. 3.06 has to do with local vendors. And the language that was added was company covenants and agreeing to use commercially reasonable efforts to meet, to endeavor to meet certain utilization thresholds with regard to the use of local suppliers and vendors to support the operations of the casino, including any development, construction, and equipping of any future projects, with particular emphasis on the inclusion of minority-owned business enterprises, women-owned business enterprises, and veteran-owned business enterprises. It goes on towards the end to say that the utilization thresholds by this section shall be 40% minority-owned business, 10% women-owned business, 5% veteran-owned business. And it also goes on to say that company non-compliance with the provisions contained in section 3.06 shall be considered a breach of the LDA and subject to arbitration. That's something that was not in, so one could arguably say that previously there were no teeth.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
there was one part on 3.04 that, it's the very end of 04, oh, okay, because you're on 6 now, okay.
You mean in terms of the commercially, defining the commercially reasonable?
No, it was at the top of my page 6, and it's the very bottom of 3.04, where it talks about they will give an annual report of employment
Yes,
positions.
I'm sorry, we wanted to add the council, so it should be to the office of the mayor.
And the council.
And the council.
Thank you.
And then, under commercially reasonable best efforts, we would add another definition, which indicates acting in good faith. Those efforts that reasonable business people would expect to be made, the efforts and actions must be calculated to achieve the stated objective.
Madam Chair. I have one other thing that we talked about in your office, Mayor, about the disabled community,
Yes.
about some hiring for them.
We talked about it, he didn't come to the last.
Didn't,
So I
didn't make the cut.
did not make it. And I think the discussion was that we were following the traditional set-asides for minority-owned, women-owned, and veteran-owned, understanding that, that some of the veteran-owned, well, some in each category could be disabled individuals, but this was really state set-asides.
I had just pointed out, because we have such a large disabled community, that it would be helpful if we had some employment opportunities for them.
Section 3.14, well, is there any other discussion about the other sections that we've already discussed?
Madam Chair, I just have a question. So these are agreements that you and the city and the Majestic Casino have come to an agreement?
Yes, with the exception, so I will, the document as you have before it is what we've agreed to.
Okay.
The definitions that we are adding and the addition of the report is something that has come as a result of our discussion with the community.
So there will be some changes made on this before we vote on it Tuesday?
Yes, yes, it would. And, you know, I would certainly like to hear,
Okay.
and I'm sure that they will hear Majestic weigh in.
Okay, all right, thank you.
But my sense is that these don't change the spirit
Right.
of the agreement.
Okay.
It just does some clarification.
Okay.
The transition fee is that after the passage of the agreement by the legislative body of the city of Gary to allow gaming operations to move to an inland casino, the company shall provide the city with an upfront payment of $5 million, which is a transition fee that shall be repaid. So it's really an advance payment on a portion of the fees that we would otherwise get. And it would be retired at the amount of $83,333 per month over the course of 60 months. And the purpose for getting this advance is our effort to further close the gap in our budget. At this juncture, we are not sure about the sale leaseback. This won't close it. This will not close it, but it will reduce it. If the sale leaseback closes, it's arguable that we might not ask for it, but we would have to look at the numbers. There is also a provision for the payment of legal fees to Ice Miller. I think in the community meeting, we were asked why we got Ice Miller, and we opted to hire Ice Miller because of their experience in drafting LDAs, and particularly their experience in ensuring that local vendors, local residents had an opportunity to participate. So a lot of the new language they were able to provide for us. .16 is that there is a consideration given to a joint venture with the Gary Port Authority and the state of Indiana for the development of the existing gaming site for the benefit of the city and company. Understanding that there had been extensive conversation about the creation of an intermodal inland, it's actually called an inland port that has intermodal features, but also recognizing that that it will not be my decision to make, but we did want to make this something that was a part of the agreement, so that going forward, the next administration would have that option. Under Article 4, it's simply a and addition of the local development agreement dated February 21st under 4.025. And it's just a matter of changing the recitals because we are adding this agreement to an existing agreement. Under under Article 5, we have Section 5.01, and it references the AGR payments, adjusted gross receipts, and it adds the payment obligations are referenced here from adjusted 1 and 2. They're going to be collapsed. So what we have done in Section 5.01 is said, or any successor entity or operations within the city. And so that covers the new land-based casino. And under A, it indicates that there's an amount to equal to 3% of the adjusted gross receipts, and it takes out adjusted 1 and 2. And an amount equal to 3%, there should be a 2 between equal and 2. Of the net commission received from any sports wagering vendor, as that term is defined by Indiana Code, before any other fees are deducted or other adjustments are made to such commission. And I'm not sure whether you all have followed it, but the entry of sports betting into this market has been huge. It's been huge. It also says that in the next paragraph of 5.01, it indicates that it changes the guarantee. You may know that we have a guarantee of $6 million currently from AGR, and we have not, during the time that I've been here, met that threshold. In fact, probably prior to that, it had gone down significantly. We anticipate that there will be more with the new casino, but we have added $150,000 to that guarantee, and that was specifically because of the discussions with the community group to have $100,000 directed towards construction training and another $50,000 directed towards compliance. It is not in the agreement pursuant to the negotiation, and what the city agreed to do was to create an agreement with the community group that raised this to ensure that it was clear what this $150,000 is for. And it would be referenced as, referencing this agreement. There is also, in the second part of that paragraph, it talks about the overage. Again, it goes to the Lakefront Fund. And historically, the Lakefront Fund was used by the company in its sole discretion for improvements, expenditures related to the company and related to the grounds of the casino. The new 5.01 provides for payments to charitable contributions, financial support of blight elimination, And it also talks about the investment in infrastructure and the demolition of structures. In 5.02, it also talks about except as otherwise provided in this agreement, and I'm not going to read that whole paragraph, but what this paragraph does is it says that if the company is successful in the bidding process with the casino in Vigo County, the Terre Haute Casino, then the city would get 5% for 10 years. The original agreement had the city receiving 0.05% if the second license is sold for 10 years. This changes that to 5%. There are changes in the enumeration in .03, 04, and 05. 5.03, 04, and 05. It then goes on to 6.02 that talks about the transfer of gaming licenses, and it references an additional 0.5% of the company's net commission from sports wagering. So it adds the provision for sports wagering there. I want to go back because one of the things that will be added in the definitions is the definition of professional services. And it's professional services, a service requiring specialized knowledge and skill and requiring a license, certification, or registration. Professional services include but will not be limited to attorneys, accountants, and insurance brokers. And the purpose for adding that was that there was a desire to make it clear that local vendors also included those who provided professional services. And again, that was from the community group, so we would have to insert that somewhere in 3.06.
3.06, local vendors.
To indicate that vendors include professional service providers.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I have, you got two chairs here. I just have something in that, it's the Lakefront Fund. It looks like it's in sub B. That they,
What article, I'm sorry, Councilwoman
it's
Wyatt?
Article 5.01, it looks like B.
Yes.
Subsection D. Near the bottom, it says, the company shall account for such funds and their uses with an annual report agreement to the city. So can we get where that's going to go, mayor and council?
Mm-hmm. Yes. We added Alice Miller under attorney. We changed it to Greg Thomas as corporation counsel. And I think that that reference should be general because, you know, corporation counsels change all the time. We added Ms. Urbanbach's name, Janae Urbanbach, and we added Mr. Keeler as the new attorney. And then under Exhibit A, it outlines or adds language about the guaranteed payment agreement. And that is the amendment of the $6,150,000. So one of the agreements that we have with the community group, and this is not required for the LDA, but I want to make it clear, is that there was a lot of discussion with the community group about the creation of a charitable fund. You see this overage, some of it can be for charitable purposes, but because there's such a laundry list, there was no guarantee. And so we proposed that we would take $100,000 from the LDA dollars for the new casino, understanding that there would be more, that would come from the city's LDA dollars for the new casino, both in Gary and an additional $100,000 should there be success with the new casino in Vigo County. So that would be in the agreement that we now have for the $150,000. We would have potentially a $200,000 fund that would be set up for charitable purposes. And the proposal would be to have the Legacy Foundation administer that fund with an advisory group that would include someone from the administration and the council and the community. In this case, the CDA.
Do we need to do an ordinance?
I think for the administration of that fund. A similar thing is being, is coming to you for the U.S. Steel as well, I should note. So the thinking is that the Legacy Foundation could just do it consistently with all of those funds.
I don't think we need the Legacy Foundation. And I'm just, it's just me. Gatekeepers, and they do a fine job. We know they do a fine job. But at the same time, they will require administrative costs coming out. And I think that our city is capable of distributing funds appropriately.
Well, you know, what I would say is that the administrative costs would be minimal. They are in the business of doing this every day. And they have a track record. And a track record, quite frankly, of helping us to leverage some of the money that's designated to Gary, like the night money. But to answer your question, I could certainly find out what that administrative cost would be. Yeah, I think that's reasonable. But, you know, I'm fairly certain that it would be less than having staff time to do something that's totally brand new.
I've got one more thing.
Yes, ma'am.
It's just on 6.06, the easement and the signage. It says that the city's going to grant the company the ability, I know, cost to put the signage up on Klein Avenue and the pond at Klein Avenue and Buffington Harbor. That would all be changed, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would. But for the time being, it's relevant. because they're gonna, even with the new road and everything, they're gonna have to put some signage in.
Okay.
I don't think they'll invest heavily in it, but that's up to them.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? I didn't want to belabor this, Madam Chair, but I did want to make sure that, you know, everybody understood what we were on.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. And the last one was 61.
Oh, I'm sorry, Madam Chair. I didn't know if someone from Majestic wanted to talk about that.
You wanna say something?
Make the trip and not get to have your day in court.
I can be very,
Okay.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Mayor, my name is John Wheeler. I'm Vice President, General Counsel of Spectacle Entertainment. I think this is working out real well because we just received the 3 proposed definitional amendments late this afternoon from Ice Miller, the city's lawyers. And so I'd like to have a chance, which I think we will now, to review and digest those. Mayor and I have previously discussed one other issue that before we knew that this was going to be opened up again, and that has to do with the certification of minority and women business people. There's some ambiguity in the agreement as it was agreed to as to whether they have to be state certified. I think everybody's in agreement that the purpose of the agreement would be better served if that was not a requirement. So I think that needs to be added. And then Mayor and I have not had an opportunity to talk about this, but in reviewing the agreement as we go forward, and I believe it was section 5.01 where there's a laundry list of what can be done with the money over and above the $6,150,000. We'd like to add another subcategory to that in essence we could use that money at our discretion to support Buffett Department. Because there could be ongoing expenses there after we leave, and we could use some of that in furtherance of the development of that. So those are the 2 new things, and just by clarification, I think the mayor did a great job walking you through the agreement, but I just wanted to mention 2 things. One is the Terre Haute money is 0.5%, or 1/2 of 1%, not 5%. That got me a little nervous.
It's wishful thinking.
I understand. And then on the transfer, I thought those are odds.
0.5. It's 5, not 5%, 0.5.
Well, if I hadn't had my glasses on, I wouldn't have seen that.
Okay.
But it was 0.05 before, so I would.
And then the only other thing is on the transition fee. I'd just like to clarify that it's if we're able to borrow the money.
Yes.
Underline if. Yeah. So that concludes my presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
One of the things that I just wanted to say, because it's really centered in this agreement, is that Spectacle has been a really good actor in working to make themselves available to local vendors. May 3rd, there was an event that was held at Majestic, very well attended, a number of local vendors. On October 8th, there will be a joint event with the city, Spectacle, and the Indiana American Water, and actually it's Indiana American Water's event, but Spectacle has come on along with the city, and that's going to be at Art House from 1 to 5. So there is an ongoing effort to ensure that people are able to understand what the plans are, what's going on, so that folks can be have the opportunity to do that.
Yes.
Madam Chair, okay, I just heard that, I think I heard you correctly about the MDE, that it won't be state certified.
Yes, sir.
That it will not.
But the rationale behind that is there are a lot of minority and women-owned businesses that don't go to the trouble or won't go, or it's too complicated. And so, you know, the idea is to try and encourage us through these goals to be able to hire them, even though they don't want to go through that process. And I think we had clarified among each other that that was the spirit of the agreement, but since we're reopening it, we wanted to clarify that.
And we've also, through this event on the 8th and through other work that is being done in our compliance department, we're working to assist them, those businesses in getting certification. We don't have as many businesses, particularly at the state level, as we'd like to see. You know, some people think that it's a burdensome process.
Well, it is. It is a burdensome process for a reason. Because you want to make sure that these are certified MBEs, WBEs, whatever, and they're just not flying like this.
Right.
It's a process. We went through it. Mr. Lee went through it. Other people went through it. But it's well worth it because it opened other doors beyond Gary. So what we probably should do is rethink that and start getting these people ready to become certified. Because we got time.
Well, we don't have as much time as we think if they're trying to open on December 31st, 2020. And, you know, for instance, there are some vendors that are smaller. There was an example of a contract for $2,000. That vendor, because they do business at such a small volume, may never be certified.
Right.
But we don't want them to miss that opportunity.
It's been my understanding that just because you're a small business doesn't mean that you can't get certified. It seems like the process becomes less then. But when you own a bigger business or a larger business, it's really cumbersome. It's a lot involved. And I can tell you that it is, but it's well worth it. But it seems like it makes people like me who went through that process with the league, I'm sure the other MBEs here, it's just a waste of time. You just take our certification, we went through the state, got it, and now it doesn't mean anything anymore.
So
We
maybe-
constantly see this thing get whittled down.
So maybe one of the requirements of Councilman Smith can be that they at least should be making substantial steps towards certification. So they will be in the process of applying. And that way, you don't take it away totally, but you don't create a burden that would be prohibited.
I just don't think it's a burden, in my thinking. I think it's a help. It helps small businesses and it opens more doors. So if we don't encourage them to get that, then those doors will never open to them.
I agree that we should encourage it. I think where we disagree is in terms of whether we should require it and forbid them or cut them out of the bidding process.
Can we look into this a little bit more? Because I think there's more information that needs to be brought to this council about the MPE program. And matter of fact, I'll reach out to them.
To the state, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll call them tomorrow.
Okay.
And, that was a long, burdensome process, and I'm just not willing to go through that, then watch it just go.
But you're really underscoring what we're saying.
Absolutely.
By you saying that it's a long, burdensome process.
But
We're just
well
saying,
worth it.
but, you know, next week they're gonna buy something, the week after that they're gonna buy something, and the week after that they're gonna buy something. And we don't want people who are clearly minority vendors, local vendors, to be.
It doesn't exclude them from trying to get a bid or anything, but those who went through the process, they have their MBE.
Right.
And you know, nobody's saying exclude them.
Okay.
So I'm just saying that I wouldn't take it off the table.
Okay.
And water
I
it
understand.
down.
I understand.
So, Madam Chair, can I speak?
Sure.
While we greatly support you, we think you did a great job doing what you've done, and we support you as a business person. I have to agree with the mayor and with what Spectrum's saying, because I think at some point you have to reach down and pull people who can't do what you've been able to do to be successful. And perhaps after they've been successful through this program, maybe then they can advance to what you're talking about. Because everyone doesn't have the opportunities that you've been given in others. And so we need to figure out a way to help those who really need it. And I think this helps that. And I understand your frustrations, but at the same time, we're here to serve people. And I think it's important.
Then when you don't encourage them to get it.
Disagree. As I said to you, I think this program will allow them to get to the next level. At least if you bring them in, at some point they may get to the next level. How do you know that? You don't know that, but you don't know that.
Nothing stops them from getting it now.
How do you know that?
What would stop them?
We have to, there has to be a starting point. I think this is the right
Yes.
place.
And I would tend to agree with both the mayor and Councilman Brown in that the time that we have is not such that they would be able to spend that kind of burdensome time applying for and getting ready for. I know the process. And again, it depends on the size of your business as to how burdensome there is, how many records you have and all of that. And again,
It's not long.
and again, I mean, you've done a great job,
Absolutely.
but everybody's not on your level as well. You have, you know, various levels of business. And some people may not even want that because, you know, they don't want to compete on a state level. Most of the time it's state contracts that you're going after that, and this, I think the state percentages are different, of course, than what this is, but you have to be state certified in order to get those contracts to be able to qualify for minority business, right? So this is the city. We know what our population is. It's a varying degree of education, socioeconomic status, so on and so forth. And maybe you can be on that committee to help them get certified. Amen.
But you gotta start somewhere.
Chair, I just think that a lot of people have a wrong perception about what that MBE is. What it is, certification that one, you are a
I know what it
real
is.
minority business. Because what we have out here is a lot of fronts. And those fronts get in there and they use minorities to do what does is become a front.
That
That
definitely
minority,
happens.
the MBE certification goes through the trouble to make sure that you are a true and in fact minority doing business in the state of Indiana.
That definitely
And
happens. But people cheat all over the place. So we ain't gonna
But
stop
let me
it
say
here.
this, if you have less information to give, then it's not that cumbersome of a process.
So you
But
gonna
if
help them?
If you have a larger business, then it becomes cumbersome, you gotta show everything. You have to show everything, so what's the big problem?
No, there is no problem.
Submitting your paperwork, and your checking account, and those type of things, your tax records and stuff, if that's all you got, then it doesn't take long.
All right.
So everybody can be in opinion that this is gonna take long, but it's say watering it down hurts us in the long run.
Okay, you guys.
I've been there, done it.
All right. Can we move on? Okay. Got a long evening. Thank you. Okay.
Madam Chair, I know we've got a long meeting. Can we have a 10-minute recess? Please.
Yes. 10 minutes.
Yes.
Why don't we 10 minutes? Thank you. Mayor, this is for you.